evening, everybody. Please come take a seat. The show is about to get started. We are so delighted to be here. This is Axios' debut at F1, and we are so thrilled to be here with the Race Media as our partners. Thank you also to IBM for making all of this possible. Jonathan Adishek, we appreciate you. This is an historic time, not just for the race, but also for Miami. There was a new study that just came out that the F1 Grand Prix is bringing $505 million of economic opportunity to Miami. And we have some of the greatest heavy hitters in business, technology, and of course some racing legends to talk all about it. One of the things I want to make sure that we discuss today is not just the economic impact of Miami that the race has had, but also the cultural impact. And there is nobody better to talk about that than somebody who is quite literally a local legend. For anyone who's a Miami native, this is a name that you know. Somebody who has been a local public servant for nearly 2 decades. Please give a round of applause and a warm welcome to Miami Mayor Francis Suarez. A little game. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Ooh, what a nice venue, huh?
And
beautiful Miami
unbelievable
night. I know.
We are so lucky, and we're lucky to have you, so thank you so much for doing this.
I'm lucky to be here with you.
So I just teed you up. You know, obviously we know there's a major economic impact, but what is the cultural impact on Miami that something like Grand Prix brings to this city?
You know, we think of ecosystem building in Miami a little differently, I think, than other cities in America. And I think the way we look at it is everyone here's most precious asset is their time. And so when you think about why is Leo Messi living here when he could have taken $250 million to live in Saudi Arabia? Why is Tom Brady living here? Why is Jeff Bezos living here? Why is Ken Griffin living here? They're living here because their most precious asset is their time, and they're investing their most precious asset in the place that values their time the most. And I think events like Formula One, which are events of congregation in addition to a sporting event that's enjoyable and fun and with Drive to Survive, everybody follows all of the storylines. You know, I think they give us an opportunity to come together in community and do a variety of things, enjoy ourselves, enjoy the time that we have, but also get to know each other, do business, network, etc. And so it's really just one of these special events throughout the year that we have in Miami. We have several where everyone from the world congregates, and we're in year 4 for Formula One, and it's really one of the proud achievements of my administration to help bring Formula One here to Miami.
It's so fascinating. You said some of the big events. I want to talk to you about FIFA and some of the other big things that are coming here in just a moment. But let's talk about what it means physically to bring this event here. Obviously, we all see the traffic. There's road closures. We know this is a big, what's that in Miami, right?
Nah.
We know this is a big economic impact. What are the challenges of bringing F1 here?
Well, the challenges are every major city in America has traffic issues. And unfortunately, and this is something I was actually talking about yesterday at another conference that's here called Commotion, where they talk about transportation innovation. I think innovation in transportation has not quite caught up when you think about, for example, urban air mobility, right? It's not yet here. When you think about automation, it's happening, but it's not quite yet here. And so you're going to see, I think, in my lifetime, in our lifetime, a generation of innovation and disruption that is going to solve a lot of the problems that, unfortunately, we are dealing with today. And what happens in Miami is, like in every major city, is our daytime population swells. You know, people come from the suburbs to work in our downtown. And then when there are major events like this, it's like everybody comes from the world to Miami, right? So we become the epicenter of the world for a weekend. And so that presents its own set of challenges. And so I think my view of it is, and I have a limited amount of time being the mayor, even though, like you said, I dedicated multiple decades of my life to this passion project of mine, which is serving the city I love and I was born in. My view of it is we should prepare for the worst always. We should be ready for the peaks. We're not quite there, I will admit, and I don't have all jurisdiction over traffic. I wish I did sometimes. But, you know, things like our airport are important. Things like our seaport are important. There's all these important different points. And then you look at how cities develop, right? Cities are developing more and more in 15-minute walkable increments where you build neighborhoods where people can live, work, and play. You have micromobility options like scooters and a variety of other things that help you get the last mile to transit. And then, of course, you have to invest in transit, but I think you have to invest in tomorrow's transit. So things like the Boring Company, we're looking at very closely to see if, if you can actually tunnel at the scale and at the price savings that you can get out of what the Boring Company has done in Las Vegas. When you look at New York, that did the Second Avenue line for $2 billion a mile, that's really expensive. So you want to be able to cut that down, and the Boring Company claims to be able to do it for $10 million a mile, so that's a massive differential.
When we think about Miami's economic opportunity, for so long it was travel, tourism, hospitality. You've really tried to diversify it, thinking about investments in finance and technology. One of your passion points is bringing crypto to Miami. Donald Trump recently called my hometown, DC, the new crypto capital. What do you think about that?
Well, I think what he means by that is that he's trying to create a regulatory framework in the United States so that innovation stays here in this country and doesn't leave to some other country. And I think he's right about that. To his credit, David Sachs, who's a friend and someone who supported me in my career, is the crypto czar. We never had a crypto czar before. And we frankly never had a federal government that was looking at innovative technologies as an asset instead of a threat. And I think that is a difference in this administration. So kudos to him for that. And I do think we should lead the world in technology. And I think, frankly, it's a national security issue as much as it is a prosperity issue. I think it's important for us because it's going to propel the jobs of tomorrow. But I also think some of these technologies, if we don't win the race, can be very, very scary for us.
No pun intended there.
No pun intended.
When I think about this city, you mentioned the seaports. Miami has been a bustling economy for the past few years, but now we're facing new tariffs that's going to impact seaports. Are you worried about that for Miami?
Well, I mean, Miami is as resilient a city economically as probably anywhere in the United States. So just to give some of what I call the KPIs or the top lines, right? We have the lowest unemployment in America. We have the highest median wage growth in America. We have the lowest homeless rate in 11 years. We are on the precipice this year, this is a crazy statistic, of having the lowest homicide rate in recorded history.
Wow.
Okay, so we are creating what we believe is a future-proofed economy. Of course, macro things like inflation, we had a tremendous amount of inflation in the last administration, and that hurt us with housing prices. Tariffs, yet to be determined exactly how they're gonna play out. Are they gonna be a bargaining chip? Is it a negotiation tool? I think if tariffs come down, reciprocally from the countries that are charging us tariffs, that'll be a good thing. And I also think our deficit and our debt is something somebody has to tackle. We cannot just continue to turn a blind eye and pretend like it's not happening.
Quickly turning back to sports.
Yes.
So we have Grand Prix here, 4th year. Like I mentioned, FIFA. You're investing more in sports teams to attract the folks like Lionel Messi, who you mentioned. When you think about bringing big events to Miami, is sports the #1 opportunity, or are you thinking more like the G20 summit and political opportunities, financial conferences? How are you ranking those priorities?
All of the above. I think
Equally weighted.
Yes, because if you go back to the original premise that we started with, it's about valuing your time. And every single individual has a different set of priorities and preferences. So somebody might want to go to a play as opposed to go to a sporting event. Someone might want to go to a beautiful park as opposed to going to a sporting event. Someone might want to go to a financial conference or a technology conference, which we have Emerge, a great technology conference. So I think for us, it's about going back to the central point, valuing your most precious asset. If we create an ecosystem that gives you offerings that allow you to enjoy that asset to the best of your ability, you're never gonna lose. And people often ask me, what's the secret to Miami's success? And I say it's simple. We do 3 things and we do 3 things well. We keep taxes low, lower taxes to the lowest rate ever. We grew 140% from 2014 to 2025. We keep people safe. Like I said before, we're about to have the lowest, God willing, I mean, it's still early in the year, but we're trending to have the lowest homicide rate in our history. Just to give you some perspective on that, in 1946, we started recording homicides. It's the first year we have recorded statistics. That year we had 32. Miami looks a little different than it did in 1946, I think you would all agree. Last year we had 27. And if you think, well, maybe it's just been static for all those years, wrong. 1980 we had 220. So we're 90% below our high water mark. And then we lean into innovation. Famously, you had a situation where New York wins the Amazon HQ2 project, and then they reject it. You had a situation where an elected official said, F Elon Musk. And guess what he did? He replied, message received, and he left.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you had someone put out a tweet that said, what if we move Silicon Valley to Miami? And I replied very innocently, how can I help? And since then, we've moved companies that manage $12 trillion in assets and grown our venture capital pipeline by over 500%.
Wow. Okay, so this is all a pretty good pitch, Mayor.
Thank you. That's my job.
My question for you, is this a pitch because you are looking to potentially run for governor?
What kind of questions are these?
Yes.
Tariffs, governor? No, look, I think the president has weighed in on the governor's race in a way that makes it hard for a Republican. I'm not saying I'm completely not considering it. I certainly have considered it. Politics oftentimes is not a resume test, unfortunately. I think if it were a resume test, I think I presented a pretty good resume of accomplishments. So it's something that, certainly I've thought about. And then, there may be other ways to serve, but I'm very blessed. I represent the best city in the planet. I think we've created something that's unique and special. And I want to keep the momentum going. I have about 200 days, and I want to make every single day count.
Well, we are definitely here to watch you on that journey. Just a few things to take away from this conversation before we leave. You mentioned all of the big celebs who are coming here to Miami because Miami helps them value their time, which I think is the big takeaway from this conversation. You mentioned the diversity of things, plays, sports, financial, and I asked you, is there a priority in terms of big events? You said no, all equal, despite the fact that we do have a lot of sports coming in here. Shout out to FIFA. When I asked, do you feel offended that you're not considered the crypto capital? You said no, it's just that Trump considers DC the regulatory crypto capital. When we think about safety as one of those three big Miami priorities, remember, it is low taxes and safety. The thing that you mentioned to me that stood out, 220 homicides. 1980, down to 27 in 2024. That's pretty incredible, especially because the first year you tracked that in 1946, there was only 33. And then lastly, governorship. You're right, it's not always a resume test, but I think everyone in the crowd sees that if it were, you'd be in a good contending spot. Give it up for Mayor Suarez.
You can make the pitch for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night. God bless.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.